Hello, everybody. My name is Summer Bozahor here, and I'm here to talk about the crazy that's going on in our world right now, what you can do about it. If you're feeling lost, what you can do about what's going on in the world so that you are able to have an effect and contribute to our way out of this situation. So this is a poster from 1912. This pyramid has been going on for hundreds of years. And if it were just capitalism, which is based on supply and demand, that would be one thing. But it's not. It's not about supply and demand. It's a whole other thing. And I'm going to go through that with you today. I'm going to expose some shocking truths. I'm going to go into depth to what this is and give you some really concrete ideas as how we can actually undermine this pyramid. Just to give you a little bit of background of who I am, in case you don't know. My first degree is in business and marketing, and my second degree is a master's degree in theology, specializing in spirituality and mind-body medicine. It's a really interesting combination, I know, isn't it? And I think that's what gives me the unique perspective that I'm going to share with you today. I've written this book, Soul Side Out, Universal Laws to Healing and Living Your Best Life. And in it, I coined the term the health scare system. I was told not to use that term because it was too inflammatory and not politically correct. Well, you know what? Now I don't give a shit. It's true. It's a healthcare system. I've healed from many different things, streptococcal blood infections and cancers and migraine headaches and so many things, and have helped so many people to do that because what we've been taught to be true about our health and about our wealth and about law is simply actually completely ass backwards. They've deceived us, and I'm going to explain how. So this capitalism thing, it's a pyramid scheme. It's not a free market. It's a scam. It's a big con game. And over 2,000 years or so, our civilization is designed to function as a pyramid scheme. Some of you have heard that. Let me tell you what that actually is and what's actually happening in our world. So just so you know, this is from Nathalie James. You can get it off our website, New York Attorney General. A pyramid scheme is a fraudulent system of making money based on recruiting an ever-increasing number of investors. The initial promoters recruit investors who in turn recruit more investors and so on. The scheme is called a pyramid because at each level, the number of investors increases. Pyramid schemes are illegal. So our entire world is an investment fraud. There is a World Crown Corporation, which has now been made into all of our countries. We have been defrauded of our countries, our cities, and even our health jurisdictions. I'm from Alberta, Canada here, and Alberta Health Services is also a corporation. So on the top, the tyrannical globalists, the WHO, Bill Gates, Trudeau, there's a whole bunch more of them. And why they actually need a reset is because pyramid schemes like this they're impossible to sustain. And their whole 2030 sustainable development program, it's not about the sustainability of Earth or the environment or the health. It's about the sustainability of their power. They're trying to figure out how they can maintain a pyramid system like this and sustain it. So let me go a little bit more into depth with this. So this pyramid and this pyramid, they're related, let me tell you. Let's start at the top. At the very top, you're going to notice this gigantic bag of money. And this is really important, especially when we get to the end of this video. I'm going to explain to you that prior to 1912, in fact, several hundred years prior, something else was at the top. Something different was at the top above the king. And I'm going to, have you think about what you think that might have been. See if you can guess, and I'll reveal what that is at the end of this video and see if you were right. So the Crown Corporation issues licenses. So the licenses that the Crown Corporation, that the globalist elite provide is based on the education that they want us to know. And it's as much about the type of education that they want us to know as is the type of information they don't want us to know. And of course, this is common practice. CEOs of businesses have proprietary information that they keep to themselves so that they can maintain their business and the way that they run their business and the wealth that it makes them to themselves. There's nothing necessarily sinister or unusual about doing this, except that it's our government that's a business. This is in Canada. I want you to notice that it says a corporation. It's a corporation of the city of Kelowna. It's a business. So what is a corporation exactly? A corporation now pretty much covers the globe of everything. The country of Canada, the city of Edmonton, Alberta Health Services, and you and your body are now part of that corporation. And the thing about corporations and about people who run corporations, the whole deal about a corporation is they don't have any personal responsibility, right? You heard about companies that they can kill anybody they want, but they're not responsible for it if they are taken to court under corporate or crown law, because corporate or crown law means you're not personally responsible. And it is in my mind that corporations absolutely need to be abolished because they are breeding grounds and absolute cesspools for deceit and childlike behavior of not taking responsibility for one's behavior or choices and being able to bully and hurt others without recourse. And we're seeing that happen on so many levels, and we're being taught that this is appropriate. And I believe that common law needs to be made common again. Common law is about honor and do no harm and take responsibility for yourselves. What does it mean then if you have a license to practice medicine as a doctor? So indoctrination, we've seen memes about that. People are talking about that now, but what does that really mean? It means that we live in a doctor's nation. Well, what's a doctor's nation? What's a doctor and whose nation are we living in exactly? I'm going to zoom up on this for you. A doctor, a person qualified to practice medicine, yada, yada. Now, here's the verb. It's to change information and figures in order to deceive other people. Or to add a harmful or strong ingredient to a food or a drink. Or maybe perhaps a medicine of some sort. So based on that definition, who do you think is the most qualified? And someone had said this. This is from Ross Walter, a nutritionist and naturopath. He is the most powerful and dangerous doctor in the world. Yes, he is. He, in fact, said he was unqualified, but no, he is absolutely the most qualified to deceive and doctor information. We literally live in his doctor's nation of lies and deceit. It's like a house of cards. This is the pyramid. It's been carefully constructed. So if you're licensed then by the Crown to practice medicine, what does that actually mean? To be licensed to practice medicine as a doctor, what that means is to share and distribute doctored information. Still on the second tier here with doctors and lawyers, we're going to go into lawyers. The Crown Corporation issues these lawyers. And so when they license someone to practice law, it's one of the highest paid positions. No person who doesn't have the money to pay a lawyer, how is it possible that they can even defend anything that they do? How many people have been unjustly put in court or fined or raped and pillaged financially based on different things? A lot. The maxim and the motto of lawyers based on the Crown Corporation is let the deceived be deceived. The law of the common people, however, is do no harm. So it's human nature, I think, because of the way that the government has manipulated over the last 100 years to deceive and get our own way when we don't know how to communicate honestly and openly. Okay, we've all done this. You do it and have done it, especially if you're a parent, right? What do you say? Oh, to a kid who doesn't eat his peas and you want him to. We're all subtly manipulating based on things that we think need to be done. You know, I put human nature here, but it's really not human nature to deceive. It's really not. It's the culture from which we've been grown up in to deceive and lie and not take responsibility for our actions, to be honorable. But this is where common law returns us to our honorable state, to our natural state of being. Man's laws cannot make moral what God has declared immoral. Even if sin is legalized, it's still a sin in the eyes of God. This is what we're dealing with here. We are getting back to the Creator, becoming one with creation and creating a new way out of this pyramid of deceit. Again, the premise of common law is do no harm. That means financially, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, do no harm. It takes a long time to build a house of cards like this, doesn't it? A pyramid scheme like this? Well, it doesn't take very long when you pull what's stable. Remember what I said? At the pyramid, the most stable thing of that structure is its base. And if you pull something from that, what ends up happening is the whole thing comes crashing down. And this is what's going to happen. All right. Want to share something else with you here about pyramids and what's happening now so that you know how important it is that you pull your card, whatever that is, from underneath that pyramid. Soros, S-O-R-O-S, resistance pyramid. This is what lawyers, they learn about this in law school. About how governments come to shift the base of power and change the type of government that runs the country or countries. The families and the bloodlines that control this information know that they have to reset it every 60 years. It's the Great Reset. But for 60 years, we have 2 generations who have been peacefully asleep to the fact that they do this. But remember, these pyramid schemes cannot be maintained because it can never be sustained. It will always collapse on itself. And this is what is imminent right now, is the collapse of this whole system. We want it to collapse. We want to create a new one. Don't hang on to the things that keep us enslaved. Now I'm going to read something to you that's very important, so you get an idea of the scope of what this pyramid does on a psychological level, both disturbing and really, really exciting. So stay with me. And so let me talk to you about an American psychologist, Dr. Bruce Alexander, and what he discovered. And this is going to be so important to realizing what's going on. All right, so I'm going to talk about rats in a cage, because really this is what we've become, where our houses have become car cages. So you get a rat and you put him in a cage and you give him 2 water bottles. One is just water and the other is laced with either heroin or cocaine. When you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drugged water and almost kill itself very quickly, right within a couple of weeks. When Bruce Alexander came along and said, hey, hang on a minute, that rat has nothing to do, it's in a cage. So he built a rat park, and it's a very famous experiment about that. So, you know, they have everything they need. They've got other rats to socialize with, they have exercise, they have food, they have sex, they've got everything that they need. They've also got the drugged water and the normal water. But the fascinating thing that is in the rat park, none of them ever used the drugged water in any addictive or compulsive way, and none of them ever overdosed. So Bruce went on to refute the 2 theories of addictions, and he said it's about your cage, it's about the environment. So why is it, do you think, they currently have liquor stores open as an essential service? So make no mistake, people, the globalists, the 1% of people that are at the top of this pyramid, treat us as rats in a controlled environment, that they manipulate our well-being based on how they change the narrative and what they do in our environment. And they watch us run around in response to the stories and the narratives that they provide us. So what Bruce was able to conclude then was that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. Connection to oneself, to God, to meaning, to others, to friends, to family. Connection is the opposite of addiction. Addiction comes from the root word dictatorship, which actually means giving away your power to someone or something else. It is also the state of being enslaved to a habit or practice or something psychologically or physically habit forming. Well, what have we become physically habituated to in the last while? What have we become addicted to? And that would be wearing masks. So many people, it's a habit now. They just put it on. They forget it's even on. It's even become a fashion statement. This whole resistance pyramid is exceptionally clever, and they find different ways to do it. There's a fear that's been propagated as to why you need to wear these masks. So now we are both psychologically and physically habituated. So most people are addicted to the stress hormones too, to the feeling of the rush of chemicals that are a result of our conscious or unconscious reactions. And right now, most often our reactions are unconscious. And that's my purpose of doing these videos, is to make them conscious. Because when you become aware, you have so much more power to do something about what's going on in your environment, so that you can make it an environment free of addiction and one of connection. So the addiction reinforces our belief that the outer world is more real than our inner world. Well, we create our inner world. I know it seems like it's coming from the outside, but it's not. It's coming from the inside. And courage is resistance to fear. It's the mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Mark Twain. If we can't master fear, we allow the top of the pyramid to stay in control. That is what they bank on. The brilliance of this is that the Achilles heel of any pyramid is the base. The base is what makes it stable. And if you remember what was at the base of the pyramid, underneath the very top is all of us, all of the people within it. So remember, at the beginning of this video, I talked about something else that was at the top of this pyramid. And then it was thousands of years ago, and still is above fear and evil and above that big money bag. So stick with me, because I'm going to tell you what that was and also give you some really important resources. When we lose our fear, they lose their power. So how do we lose our fear? Well, let me tell you. So what do people most fear right now besides their health? Well, a lot of people are afraid of losing their jobs. What does it stand for? It stands for just over broke. We are just over broke financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, culturally destroyed. And we are trying to hang on to the last piece of whatever it is that they scraps that they're throwing us. This willingness to feel just over broke, to believe that you have no sense of worth or value other than living in a life that has you compromise your values, is what allows them to uphold this entire pyramid. And I'm going to quote this. This is the book, The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. I found it very insightful. The definition of freedom is the infinite value of the human being, and evil is the destruction of freedom. Everything that is evil teaches people that they have limited value. And it is the nature of evil to create artificially complex ideas. Artificially complex ideas are found in law, in the legal system. They make all these different things. Anyone confused right now with what the law is, with what's going on, with what they're mandating and what they're not mandating, and what they change and what they don't? It's complex, it's confusing. And it does that to hide the freedom it destroys. And if you remove all the complexities and fears in your life, you will find a plain and beautiful truth. And that is simply the nature of your worth and the value of man. The most dangerous man to any government is the man who is able to think things out for himself. H.L. Mencken. And one of the myths about some of this stuff about thinking is that we don't feel first. In fact, it is through our feeling that we know what's going on. And this is what comes from, this is from a 14-year-old girl. Her mother posted this in one of the groups that I oversee. And I think it's brilliant and sums it up altogether. To understand now that I'm not a mess, but a deeply feeling person in a messy world. I explain now that when someone asks why I cry so often, I say for the same reason I laugh so often, because I'm paying attention. We're afraid of the outside. And what we've been afraid of our whole lives is the inside. They've kept us away and afraid of our inner truth. And this is where we need to turn. The antidote to this addiction to fear is connection. And it's a very exciting time because we may have lost our connection to those friends and family members we've had for our whole life. There's this division between people. What you're going to find, though, is new connections, deeper connections to yourself, your new soul family, and your source or creator. We have to start making new connections. And it's time that we create a new way. Because as we hang on to these systems that we have been used to and controlled by, we allow them to maintain this for a whole other set of hundreds or even thousands of years. We need to stop standing on top of each other. Once the foot soldiers of the elite will not protect the elite, they're done. They're done. We're protecting their system. We need to be protecting each other and ourselves and connecting. In the eyes of God, in the eyes of the universe, in the eyes of the creator, we're all created equal. There's an even playing field. There's none of this hierarchy that they have artificially created and they have to keep resetting. It is bound to fail every single time. This is the time where we all need to be getting out of our comfort zones and into our learning zone. It's imperative that we do. There are 4 books I highly recommend. The 3 last books, The Medical Mafia, The End of All Evil, and Soul Side Out, are all available as immediate PDF downloads or as an audiobook. Free and quickly, immediately accessible through the links I'm going to provide below. And they're going to give you so much insight, so much relief, and so much hope. The other thing you can do is connect with other people. So I've got a few ways to do that. One of those ways is to join me for Tea, Talk, and Truth. With Tea Talk and Truth, we're going to span different topics over time with different speakers and good friends of mine in different areas of this pyramid, such as lawyers and nurses and pharmacists and psychologists and spiritual truth seekers. So, in this time of transition, we're going to have lots of ideas and inspiration and support for how to stay brave and how to navigate the challenges that are going to come up so that we can master that fear, create connection, and ultimately create better lives for our children. There's no cost for Tea and Talk Truth, but you can donate and contribute financially or in other ways if you wish. So now this is the most important part of this whole video. This is when I'm going to answer the question or the quiz that I posed at the very beginning about what was at the top of this pyramid. You are going to want to know what was above that and stay with me till the end. Otherwise, you're going to be missing something extraordinarily powerful. So, what happened before money was placed at the top of this pyramid? What was above the king? Did any of you guess? Now, the answer to that is God. God or the creator was at the top. But what happened at a certain time in the year 1215 with King John was that he no longer was behaving in a manner that befitted a king. He raped and pillaged and overtaxed the people in his kingdom. So what began was a revolution or civil war. And at that time, in 1215, the Magna Carta was created and common law was put in place above the king. And common law's maxim is do no harm. So you can imagine then if there's a corporate system that's put in place in which they are no longer responsible for doing harm, then common law is in direct opposition to the corporations. And this is where you research this for yourself, but lawyers, literally, lawyers in the legal corporate system are below that of common law. If you go in and create your own court in common law, the legal system is no longer valid. Lawyers are no longer valid, and paperwork that could have been put together for months is no longer valid and gets thrown out. It does take time to study this, but I highly recommend you start. This is an exciting time. It's an apocalypse. It means the revealing of truth or the lifting of a veil to disclose something hidden from humanity during falsehood. Sometimes it feels like we're in the dark now, but it's the opposite. It's absolutely the opposite. The truth is coming to light now. Things are transforming at a human consciousness level at an astonishing quick rate. The soul travels at the speed of light. If you want anything to be done quickly, you actually have to transform it at the soul level. It is way faster. And there's a reason that there are sayings like this in the Bible. They speak to deep, deep buried truths that are being unveiled right now. And one of those is, for where your treasure is, there your heart be also. Matthew 6:21. It really goes back to helping people claim their authentic nature and helping people identify their purpose, their calling, and to do the things that they love, and not just as a job under the globalist elite, but to be of service to the Creator and to all other beings. So if you're done with feeling just over broke, I believe remembering what's at the top, not having money as the center of our motivations, but having God, the creator, your spirit, your soul in charge. In other words, living soul side out is what it's all about.